Hey there internets, I'm Michael and this is Toucan Play That Game, and today we are returning to ancient Egypt where it is a time of magic, monsters and epic battles in Kemet. But obviously I already did videos on Kemet, so why am I returning to it? Well, it's because of this, Kemet Ta Seti. But what is Kemet Ta Seti? Well, it's an expansion to Kemet, which is why, unsurprisingly, when we look at the cover here, you can see it pretty much looks the same as Kemet, except for we have some new people and some new monsters. So we'll probably see them featured in this expansion. Now, just before I go into how to play the expansion and what is included in it, I just want to say this first video will be the how to play, and then the next video you'll be able to see an example of how to play. This how to play will be split into the different modules that there are in the expansion, whereas with my playthrough it will just include all the modules in one playthrough. And then there will be a final video, as always, which will be my review of the game, where you can find out what I think of it and of course whether or not you can play that game. But what does this expansion bring to Kemet? Well, it brings 5 different modules. The first module is a new colour of pyramid and power tile. The second module is a new way to determine player order. The third module is a new mechanism called the Road to Tar-Sethi. The fourth module is a new win condition. And finally, the fifth module is new battle cards and new divine intervention cards. So let's take it to the table and you can see how to play Kemet Ta Seti. And welcome to the table for how to play Kemet Ta Seti. And the first module we will be looking at is the black pyramid and power tiles. So at the start of the game, each player will need to take a black pyramid along with the normal 3 pyramids that they would take. As well as this, they'll also need to take one of these tokens for the black pyramids, and I'll explain why in a second. Then the next change comes when the players are putting out their starting pyramids. So if a player, when they're choosing their starting pyramids, chooses to have 3 at level 1, they'll need to decide at that point whether or not they want the black pyramid. Now, if they choose to use the black pyramid, they'll only be able to use 2 of the other colours. And whichever colour they choose not to use, they will then put this token over that colour on their player board. And of course, putting the pyramids out would work as normal, just with the black being placed rather than one of the other colours. If a player only chooses 2 pyramids to be set out, like we have here, then they don't need to make their decision about their 3rd pyramid until later in the game when they'd be putting it on the board. So the way this would work in the situation we have here, where we have the blue and the black selected, is that the black token could go on either the red or white, but later on in the game, when they choose which of these to put on the board, they just move the token to cover up. So let's say later on in the game they choose to put their red out, the black token would get moved to cover the white space, and the white pyramid would get removed from the game. So there is also an additional change to the setup, which of course is when you're putting out the power tiles, if you have space to do so, you'll also put out all the black ones. So additional rules with regards to this module is that if you capture an opponent's pyramid, you may still use that pyramid even if it is the colour that you are not using for your side of the game. Let's talk a bit about what the black pyramids actually give you. So obviously in the base game we have red is attack, blue is defense, and white is utilitarian. Now in this expansion, black is also kind of a utilitarian power. However, it's kind of a bit of everything. It has some of that prayer point management that white has, some attacking stuff that red would have, and some defensive things that you would expect to come under blue. It's kind of an amalgamation of everything, so it will support any other combinations you choose to use. So let's talk a bit about what these power tiles do. So we have these two level ones, and they both have different pictures on, but they are actually the same tile. They are mercenaries, and because they are the same tile as with normal Kemet rules, that means you are only allowed to buy one of them. So one of the tiles is for women and will give you 3 female mercenaries, and one depicts men and will give you 3 male mercenaries. When you buy the power tile, you'll immediately put the 3 figures for those in your city, and they count as normal basic units. Next, we have forced recruitment. Now, what this one does is it allows you to recruit wherever you already have units. So normally you would only be able to recruit into your city, but with this you could reinforce a troop at another location, such as a temple or an opponent's city. Dark Ritual. Now, this is a new kind of tile that has been introduced with these black ones. And what they do is they give you a gold token, but that gold token, when you choose to use it, can only activate what you have on this tile. So this Dark Ritual one allows you to perform a pray action with your gold token. And because your player board only has 1 space for a gold token, no matter how many of these tiles you have that would give you a gold token to get an action, you'll only ever be able to use one of those actions in a day phase, and you will only have the 1 token. So if you've already bought this one or the one from the original Kemet that allows you to use either of the top actions, you would still only have the 1 token, but after buying this, if you had that original one from Kemet, you'd be able to choose between a pray, a move, or a recruitment action when you place that gold token. So then let's talk about the level 2s. So first one we have is Honour in Battle. And what this does is you gain a victory point for each of your units that is destroyed by an opponent in battle. And you'll receive those at the end of the battle. Next, we have Dedication to Battle. Now, during the move attack action, you'll gain 2 prayer points if you move into a space where there is an enemy troop there. And you will get these even if a battle doesn't occur. Next, we have our first monster from this set, and that is Cunham's Sphinx, which is kind of a bit of a kind of ram-headed sphinx here. And what that will do is, for the linked troop, they'll gain +1 movement, +1 strength, and additionally, for an opponent to move into a space occupied by this, your opponent has to pay 2 prayer points. So that's in addition to any cost of teleporting. So if they wanted to teleport to a temple where you had that, it would cost them 4 prayer points to start the battle. So that's quite a good defensive creature. And then the final level 2 is Twin Ceremony. This is another one of those golden action token tiles, as I was just saying about the Dark Ritual one. So it'll follow the same kind of rules about that. But this one will allow you to reuse a buy action that you've already used this turn. but it does mean that the tile will cost one more prayer point than usual. But say you really wanted to buy 2 white power tiles in a turn because you'd invested to get those up high and you wanted to be able to get 2 really powerful ones in a turn before someone else is able to stop you. This will allow you to do so. On to the level 3s, we have another monster. We have the lovely Griffin Sphinx. And this gives you +2 strength for the Link Troop, but also when you use a move action, the Griffin Sphinx can teleport the troop from an obelisk. So this is similar to the teleport power that's a level 2 power in the base Kemet game, except for it will only work for the troop with that monster, but you're also getting the +2 strength, so it's pretty nice. Next we have another golden action tile, and this time it's Forced March, which just allows you to perform a move action. Then we have Deadly Trap. So as soon as an opposing troop moves into a space occupied by one of yours, your opponent chooses one of his units and destroys it before the battle starts. So this is another one of those good defensive ones. Anyone attacking you has to kill someone. And then of course, as a level 3, we have Victory Point because that's in all the different colours. So now on to the big boys, the level 4s, and we have here the Devourer, which is an unfortunately not very impressive miniature. It's kind of like a bit of a hippo, but he is impressive statistically. So the Link Troop will gain +1 movement capacity, +2 strength, and they're immune to any damage dealt when it is not in battle. So anything that would cause you to lose troops, like Divine Intervention cards or other powered cards that are before battle lose people, this will stop that. Also, after winning a battle in which you destroy at least 2 of your opponent's units, you gain an extra victory point, and that's a battle victory point. So that's a real big deal, that one. Then we have Bestial Fury. So all of your troops will gain this. It's not a monster. And what it does is give every troop +1 movement, +1 strength, and +1 damage. So that's pretty useful. Then we have Divine Strength. Every time you gain at least 1 victory point during the day phase, you gain an extra 1. So again, that can make a big difference, and this is one of those kind of utilitarian, similar to the white power tiles from the base game. And then we have another staple of Kemet, and that is Act of God, which appears in pretty much all the different colours and gives you an extra action token that you can play at the same time as one of your other action tokens, and it's silver. Next, let's talk about how to play with Module 2, the Dawn phase. Now, the main component for this is these Dawn tokens, and these are double-sided. On one side, they have a +1 strength, and then on the other side, they have a +2 strength. And that's just in case you run out of tokens. So the purpose of this module is to change the way in which you determine turn order. So for changing the game, the first turn is still determined randomly when you're doing the setup. There's no change to that. But in later turns, rather than having the determined turn order stage of the night phase, you will instead have what's called the Dawn phase. So the way that this Dawn phase works is that you will have a mandatory battle that all players must participate in. How this battle differs from the normal battles of Kemet is, firstly, there will be every player involved, and secondly, the way battle cards are played will be different. So starting with the player on the last place of the turn order track, they will choose to play a battle card face up on the board so that everyone else can see it. Now, the only thing that matters on this card is the strength. No other symbols, no damage or protection mean anything. Also, any power tiles or divine intervention cards that would give you strength in battle do not work. But you can add Dawn tokens to give you +1 strength per token. Next, you will have to discard a battle card face down next to your player board, the same way as if you were playing a normal battle. Once you have done this, the person who's next in reverse turn order will play their card and discard a card and choose to play any Dawn tokens that they wish to play, and then it continues on until everyone has played their cards. Now, with the Dawn tokens, at the end of this battle, all Dawn tokens that are used will be discarded, so you will not get them back. So the way this battle will be resolved is, as I've said, you only look at the attack value. So let's say we've got red and yellow here in a 2-player game. Yellow has played a strength of 5 and red has played a strength of 1. So yellow would then get to decide which position of turn order they would like to be in next time. This is not picking where everyone will be, just where they will be. You would then go down, so if there was an additional player who had 4 strength, they would then get to pick where they go. If there are any draws, those are broken by the previous turn order. Whoever was previously going first out of the people who are drawing will be the winner of that tie and therefore get to decide their turn order position before the other player. So we have a situation here where we have a clear winner. But let's say we had a situation where they'd both played 5, then we'd have a tie and it would have to be broken. You couldn't, if you had this tie here, then go, I choose to play a Dawn token. The Dawn tokens are played at the same time as the battle cards. So there's still one question I haven't answered with regards to this module, and that is, of course, how do you get these Dawn tokens that I keep talking about? Well, whenever you have a normal battle in Kemet, so this is when you have 2 troops who meet in a space and you have a battle playing your battle cards, whenever you lose that battle, you will get one of these tokens. So let's talk now about the biggest change rules wise from this expansion, and that is module 3, the path to Tar-Sethi. Now here I have the path laid out. This path is made up of 4 boards and they are all double-sided. You'll just determine when you're setting out the board at the start of the game which side you use randomly. However, they do need to be set out in a precise order. Now, the easy way to do this is the final piece will have the victory point icon on because that is Tar-Sethi. And then every other piece, the roads will all line up in order to create the path working correctly. Next, you'll want to put the temporary bonus tokens on the corresponding spaces. So that's these little oval ones, and the spaces are marked on the board with the corresponding pictures. Then you'll need to put the level 1 objects on the board wherever there's a space on the board with the level 1 object picture. So just put them out randomly, face up so that people can see what they are. And they won't just be on the first tile, you'll also find they might be on the later tiles as well. Then you'll want to do the same for the level 2 spaces, and they're similar tiles, just bigger. And again, you're just putting out randomly wherever there's a space. And finally, you'll do the same with the skill tokens that are these black ones. Then the last thing to put on the board is a Tar-Sethi victory point token, which is one of these black ones, and that'll just sit in Tar-Sethi. So that is then the path all laid out. The next thing you need to do for setup is to get the priests of your colour and just put them at the start of the path. You don't have to pick which of the roads on the path to Tar-Sethi that they're going to be using at this point. You just put them near the beginning ready. So with the board all set up, let's talk about how the path actually works and plays. So whenever you select during your action phases the move attack action, which is that disembodied leg, then you will immediately, before you perform the move action, move one of your priests on the path to Tar-Sethi. Now, it doesn't matter which of the models you move, they're all identical, and you'll just pick one and then pick the path, the route that it is taking, and move it along. So if we say this yellow player is done a move action, they choose to move there. Any icons on the roads, so we have Anks, Divine Intervention cards and units that you pass over as part of moving your priests, you will immediately gain. Now, the leaflet that comes with the expansion, as well as detailing all the power tiles, new Divine Intervention cards, also does state what all of these different objects you can get, skills and temporary bonuses, and also what you get symbol-wise when you pass over them. So the one I didn't mention was the destroy one enemy unit, which doesn't seem to be on this side of the board. I think if we flip this over, yeah. So if we flip the Tar-Sethi, you can see there's the destroy one unit. You just destroy one enemy unit anywhere on the board. So as I say, you would move one space, and a space is dictated to the next town. Now, obviously you start with these smaller towns and they get bigger as you progress nearer to Tar-Sethi. When you do a movement, you will move until you hit a town. So from here, for example, if I did a movement, I could move here, here, or I could move all the way along up to here. So I could skip this second tile completely. Additionally, when moving, you can only move forward. So let's say I did that move and I moved all the way over to here. I couldn't then go back to go to here. I could only move this way and go to Tar-Sethi. Additionally, I couldn't go like this and then back up this way. It is always purely right movement. So you could look at it as getting to this junction and then turning. You can't go backwards. That's why they've done the artwork, so that everything has this slight slant in the direction to the right. So there's no ambiguity about it being lined up or not. It is definitely to the right. So let's say we had the situation that we were just discussing and the yellow has reached this space here, and they then do another move action. Now they can choose which of the priests they move. So they could choose to move this priest that's already on the board, or they could choose to bring a new priest on a different road, or on the same road even if they wanted to. So when you have reached a location, so let's say we were doing the first move of the game and they moved here, they took their prayer point for passing over that, and they reached this location. Whenever they reach a location, they automatically stop. So the player stops there, so the priest stops there, and then the player has to choose one of two options. They can do nothing, which means the priest will stay in this location here, and next time that they do a move action, they can choose to move him further along the path. Or they can choose to take what is at that location. So that would be, they would take the object that is there and they would return off the path. So they would just go back to the beginning of the path. Now that applies if it's one of these level 1 objects or the level 2 objects, or even if it's 2 objects they're getting. However, if they get to, say, here, where there is a skill token, they can choose to take that skill token the same as they would with an object. However, they don't then go back to the start of the path. What that means is your priests now have that ability. They're kind of a homemade, customized monster. And your priest will go to the board and they will replace one of your units that is already on the board. And they get treated as units. So unlike with a monster that gives no combat value innately and can't be affected by things that affect units, priests can be. Now, once you have a priest on the board, it would have any skill that you've retrieved. If you then, say we had this priest on the board, he'd retrieved this skill, and their other priest got to here and took another skill. That priest would also go on the board, and now both priests would gain both of those skills. Additionally, at any point, you can choose to return a priest from the board back to the start of the path of Tar-Sethi to build up more if you wish to. If we had a situation like here, where this yellow has reached this location at a move action and has claimed this skill and then goes off to go to the board, but there's no units on the board for them to replace, then what happens is that the priest will just go to your reserves. And then when you do a recruit action, you can recruit them as per a normal unit. It is important to note, as I've said, your priests all gain the skills that you have collected, and you can have up to 3 priests out on the board. But if you have 2 priests in the same troop, you do not duplicate the effects, you still only get them once. So if you had, say, this skill here that gives you +1 movement allowance, if you had 3 priests all in the same troop, that would not give you +3 movement for that troop, it would still only give you +1. So finally with the path, let's talk about, we've had some people coming along and they've been claiming this and claiming this and claiming this, etc. What then happens? Because obviously there's nothing there for that person to claim. So if they get there, obviously they would not have 2 options. They'd only have the 1 option, which is to remain in that space. Then at the end of the night phase, after you've used your night powers, you would then refill the path. So from the stock of tokens, you would refill any tokens that have gone. So let's now talk about what you can get from the path. So we'll start with these temporary powers. Now these will only work for the turn that you get them. So when you do a move action, you will gain this, but at the end of that move action, you must return it to the path of Tar-Sethi. And there are 3. On the starting tile, we have a +1 protection and a +1 damage, and then later on, we have a +1 strength. Next, let's talk about the level 1 objects. So we have the ibis statue, and that will just immediately allow you to draw a divine intervention card when you choose to use it. So the way these objects work are they are 1 use, but unlike with the temporary ones, they don't have to be used that round. So this would sit in front of you, and then you could choose to trade it in for a divine intervention card. Next, we have the flaming capoche, and this will just give you +1 strength in a battle, so you'd use it once and then it'd go away. Then the hare statue. So this just gives you +1 movement. So when you do a move action, you could have an additional movement for that 1 action. And finally, the leather shield, which just gives you +1 protection. And on to the level 2 ones, we have the bull statue. This is the same as the ibis statue, except for you get 2. And then we have the double-edged dagger. Now this is an interesting one, because you'll play this at the start of a battle before anyone has selected their battle cards, and if you win, you'll get an extra victory point, but if you lose, you'll lose a victory point. And the way that works is there are these dagger victory points that come with the expansion. One side is positive and the other side's a negative. So if you're losing a victory point, you'd just have the negative side up. If you gain the victory point, you'd have the positive side up. Then we have the Divine Seal. Now the way this works is you'll place it on an opponent's power tile and that will make it not work. So it will give no benefit. However, this will only last for this action phase. Then we have the Mask. Now the Mask you'll play during a battle and it will mean that only units and battle cards get taken into account for this battle. So any Divine Intervention cards, any power tiles, any monsters, any other objects, and any priest skills will not be taken into account. But it's important to note that priests and mercenaries count as basic units, so although you wouldn't get the bonuses of the priest skills, you would still get the +1 strength for them being a unit. Also, the skill which allows for 7 units in a troop would still work. And that just leaves us with the skills. So let's go through those. We have Slaughter, that gives you +1 damage. Haste, that gives you +1 movement. Charge, that gives you +1 strength when attacking. Defensive Position, that gives you +1 strength when defending. Open Gates, which allows you to ignore the effects of walls. Divinity, which at the end of battle allows you to draw a Divine Intervention card for each 2 units of an opposing army destroyed. Defensive Victory, which allows you to gain a victory point even if you are the defender. Legion, which allows you to have 7 units in a troop instead of 5. We have Direct Recruitment. Each unit that was destroyed by your opponent in a battle from this troop can be recruited immediately for free in your city or another existing troop. Just note it can't be back into that same troop though. Then we have Compensation. For every Divine Intervention card you play in a battle, you'll draw one at the end of that battle. And finally, Premonition. Now, the way this works is the same as the Premonition power. So you will get to see your opponent's battle card before you have to choose yours. If 2 people have the same skill, then the attacker reveals first. So next we have Module 4, a new victory condition. Now this is the module that is simply a new rule. And so I have put on screen for you a picture of the lovely new minis because that's something nice to look at while I talk about this. Normally in Kemet, you can only win the game if you have 8 or more victory points at the end of a day phase. What this module does is change that so that if at the beginning of your action you have 8 or more victory points and no one else does, then you immediately win the game. However, if you have a situation where there is another player who also has 8 or more victory points, then no one wins at this point. But it does mean that this will be the final day phase of the game. And if at the end of that day phase, no one has managed to be the only person on 8 or more victory points at the start of their action, then the winner is determined in the normal fashion for Kemet. So let's talk about Module 5, the new battle cards and Divine Intervention cards. So with the battle cards, you'll have 2 new cards in each colour, and you'll just add those to each player's hand. And one of them gives a strength of 1, a damage of 1, and a protection of 3. Nice and simple. The other one will give a strength of 5, but at the cost of, at the end of battle, you must kill 2 of your own units. Now, keep in mind that these are considered to be inflicted by yourself, not by your opponent, and no amount of protection or anything else will save you from it. Next, we have the Divine Intervention cards, and you'll just add these to your deck of Divine Intervention cards. Nice and simple. But let's talk about what they've added. Well, we've got +1 movements. We have Glory, which is a battle phase one, which means that if you win, you'll get an extra 4 prayer points for winning. We have Reinforcements. Again, if you win this time, you get 3 units from your reserve and you can place them in your city or existing troops. Divine Protection. Now this is probably my favourite of these, and this means that if you win the battle, you don't have to worry about damage. You will be saved. However, it doesn't prevent the battle card damage of the new battle card that you're damaging yourself. This only protects you from damage from your opponent. Then we have Divine Memory. Now this is an interesting one. It allows you to take a card from the Divine Intervention discard pile and put it in your hand. And you don't have to let everyone know what card you've taken. And then the final new one we have is Tactical Choice. So you will play this card after your battle cards have been revealed, but before the battle is resolved. And it means that you get to change your battle card. Now, if both players play this in the same battle, the attacker will resolve their effect first. And that is how you play Kemet Ta Seti. As always, I do hope that you have found this video useful, that it has helped you, and that it will help you to decide whether or not you want to try this game. Of course, please do watch the rest of the videos in this series, as well as the rest of the videos on the channel, and please do subscribe to the channel and share the channel with your friends and family. And as always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.